Hey guys, and welcome back to another video. Hopefully this will be our final part in this series of, buy like what cars
I would buy
indeed.
if I was incredibly rich, which I'll never be, and this is just a silly list of every car that I would actually consider owning. Now obviously we did change the title, it's now called the My Ultimate Dream Garage Series, I think, because I didn't think that calling it after Jay Leno would get like
many
views and it would be not researched. But basically, same concept. Jay Leno is very rich, has a lot of cars, and this is what my garage would look like if I was in the position to have something like his. So we are doing R to Z hopefully today, final part, because there's not that, and prior warning, there's not many supercars. If you are interested in those, then you can wait. There will be some, but you're gonna have to wait to go through the more my cup of tea cars first, before we get to those.
Yeah. Right, so we're going to start at our Renault with the Renault Sport Megane 300 Trophy R.
Yes, on paper, a £70,000 Renault Megane, or well, it's about 55, but with all the options, it's like 70 odd grand. A £70,000 Renault Megane doesn't sound like a very good idea.
Yeah.
But this thing is a weapon, absolute weapon. It's an incredible piece of engineering. Front wheel drive, manual gearbox, 296 bhp, so it fits all of the categories for a true hot hatch. It's fabulous, absolutely incredible car, and it's actually worth, for the driving and enjoyment and the experience that you get from it, 100% worth the premium. And it's because of all the carbon that they put in it. It's got no back seats anymore, even though it's got 4 doors. It's got a roll cage at back. It's an absolute weapon, and it's a brilliant car. Yeah. And it's faster than the standard Megane because it's lighter.
Yeah. Alright.
So
fair. Right, okay, then we've got the Renault Twingo GT.
Yes. The Renault Twingo GT from, I think it's about, they stopped selling the Twingo recently. And I was gutted because the Twingo, a Renault Twingo GT is basically a baby 911. Engine is at the back, under the boot floor. Rear wheel drive, has a manual gearbox in the middle, where you expect it to be. They weren't fast. They're 0.9 litre turbocharged 3-cylinder engine. Gave it 108 horsepower, so 60, 10 seconds. So speed 130. Not bad. Not bad at all. That's not slow. Yeah. I mean, these are MX-5 figures, really. Yeah. Let's be honest. So, not a slow car at all. Looked brilliant. Twin set exhaust at the back. Love them. And they were fabulous to drive as well. Unfortunately, not available anymore because they're not the Twingo in the UK anymore, and they don't even do a GT in other markets anyway. So, it's a great car.
Alright, then we've got the Renault Sport Clio V6 Phase 2.
Yeah, so they actually, I'd probably have a Phase 1 as well. Let's put 1 and 2.
Okay.
For that, so we'll change it.
All right.
I would have a Phase 1 and a Phase 2. So the Phase 1 is based on the Mark II Clio, the early 2000s one. Late 90s one, and they had, well, basically they shoved a 2.9 litre V6 where the rear seats are. So they made a front wheel drive 4-seater hatchback, a rear wheel drive mid-engine 2-seater V6 sports car.
Right.
Manual gearbox as usual. Incredible, because these are one of the very few hatchbacks that you can fully sideways and hold all day, like the BMW 1 Series, except from this is a sports car rather than a hot hatch. The original Phase 1 came with 227 horsepower, which is a lot, especially back then in the early 2000s. The Phase 2 put that to 252 with the Mark III Clio body, and then after that they've never made a V6 engine Clio ever again. But it was brilliant. They were fabulous. This is the era of Renault I love, and the thing is, it's not the first time they've shoved an engine in the middle of a front-wheel drive hatchback, as we will learn in a minute, because it was a famous rally car that they did it to, and they are the homage of that.
Okay. Right. Well, the next one is the Renault Alpine, whatever A610.
It's grammatically it's Alpine, and I go off the grammar because that's how I think it should be. Yes. So the A610 was the last Alpine they built before Alpine made its return in 2018. This had a big V6 at the back, And it is the fastest Alpine that has ever been built, top speed wise, because the new Alpines aren't as fast as that. This did 166 miles an hour.
Okay.
For a Renault,
That's
the manual gearbox,
Yeah.
rear-wheel drive, mid-engined. So, two things that I think are better than the modern Alpine, which is a very good car, make no mistake. Manual,
Yeah.
and it's got more power.
Yeah.
Except from the A110S, but who gives a toss about that?
Yeah.
That's a special edition. So it had about 266 horsepower, no, 240, no, about 247. Actually, it's a little bit shy, but something like that. I know it had quite a decent, sort of similar amount to the modern one, but it has a V6, so it does sound better than the modern Alpine for sure, and it's faster, top end. But 166, and it had lights. So basically, it didn't have proper headlamps, but it had sort of covers that sort of like went like that, and then the lights revealed.
Okay.
It was really cool. Yeah.
So, okay, right then we've got the Renault Alpine GTA Le Mans.
Basically, yeah, the same car, just a tiny bit older. So the V6 only churned out 197 bhp, which doesn't sound like a lot, but it could do 155 miles an hour with only 197 horsepower, which is brilliant. And 0 to 60 was about just shy of 7 seconds, so not slow.
Definitely not. Right. Okay, then we've got the Renault 5 Turbo.
So the Renault 5 Turbo is, as I mentioned earlier, the rally car that they took the back seats out of and shoved an engine in.
Okay.
I actually have one there next to the TCV on the desk.
Okay.
So, basically, the modern Clio V6 and, well, the Phase 1 and Phase 2 were the homage to this car, basically. Because in the 70s, they thought, well, what do we need to win the World Rally Championship? The Renault 5 GT Turbo, which is after this, which is just a front-wheel drive, 4-cylinder up front, manual gearbox, just a hot hatch to rival the Golf and the Fiesta XR2, was brilliant. But they thought, right, we need to make this a little bit different. So they turbocharged the engine, got it to about 158 horsepower, removed as much weight as possible, dead wide at the back because it had to have the vents and a wide arch, changed the front end a little bit, and they ended up with a turbocharged, mid-engined, rear-wheel drive, manual sports car that was incredible at rallying, which when rallying it tuned up to about 350 horsepower, 400 horsepower, something like that, and one which was incredible to drive as a road car as well. And because it was light, it could do 0 to 60 in 6.6 seconds, which is cut by today's standards. So basically, they made a mid-engined hatchback again, and then the Renault 5 GT Turbo arrived with a turbocharged engine, as you would have expected, but it was not the Renault 5 Turbo with the engine at the back. So, yeah, it was weird.
Yeah, I think you just alluded to anyway. The Renault 5 GT Turbo.
Yeah, just an XR2
yeah,
rival, but a brilliant car nonetheless.
Yeah, just say just so you can see the picture or whatever of it.
You'll see there's a huge difference between the two.
Yeah. Okay. Then we've got the Renault 4.
The Renault 4 is not as interesting as the Renault 5. Yeah. The Renault 4 is basically Renault's 2CV. It was for the people. It was a people's car. It wasn't anything special, but they are bulletproof cars, and they survived a long, long time on sale as well. One of the longest production runs of cars, like like the Beetle had a long production run, the Mini did, the 2CV did. All of the people cars have had a long, long time on sale. This is one of them. It's one of the more forgotten about cars, I think, the people's cars. But the Renault 4 is a gorgeous little car. I love them. I think they're really nice, and I would own the Mini, the 2CV, and the Beetle. So I just like people's cars. I think they're cool.
Makes sense. Okay, then we've got the Renault Clio Williams.
I love the Clio Williams. This was the Renault's first hot Clio.
Okay.
So this was before Renault Sport, basically. And they got them out on Clio, and Williams used to be the Formula 1 team.
Oh, right, yeah.
Formula 1
yeah.
team. So for Renault. So Williams thought, oh, we'll tune a road car, we'll just do a bit up to the Clio to take on the Peugeot 205 GTI, which also had a mid-engine variant with rear-wheel drive to rival the 95 Turbo. And basically, they had about 145 horsepower. They did it in really limited numbers, all painted blue with gold wheels. bit Subaru-ish,
Yeah,
but the
very,
blue's
very Subaru.
the blue's a lot darker.
Yes,
So
Oh,
good looking, incredibly rare, fabulous to drive, incredibly fast for a little old Mark 1 Clio. And obviously they're handled and brake like an absolute god because they were tuned by a Formula 1 team.
Yeah.
So
that makes sense. Okay, right then we got the final Renault, which is the Renault Aventine.
yes, possibly the only coupe MPV ever built, which doesn't sound like much.
No.
However, these cars are incredibly cool because they were designed when when Renault used to make like fabulous looking cars, like they used to.
Yeah.
This was one of them because it looked really good. It's dead curvy, dead swoopy, and then it's got a dead sharp angled rear end. V6 at the front, which is a brilliant engine. Front wheel drive, which is a bit obviously, but it's still front wheel drive. They did them with the manual as well. So this is a manual 2-door MPV with a V6 with 240 horsepower available. This is pretty quick. This is cool stuff. And it was a sales disaster, so there's hardly any of them on sale. And if you would like to see the Renault Aventine featuring in a video, you can click on the pop-out banner somewhere up there, where you can see it as being one of the 40 rarest 21st century cars in the UK.
Okay.
With, I think, 158 of them left on the roads. So there's not many of them. There are obviously 40 really good cars in that video.
Yeah.
39 others that you can see as well.
Yeah. Which that's to be fair is a good video, just because on the grounds of you want to see what.
Well, for reference, there are around 3,500 Lamborghini Huracans on sale. So that gives you a reference to how rare the Aventine is if there are only 158 of them.
There you go.
In the UK. You fall over Huracans in the UK, you never see anything interesting.
Yeah.
It's crazy.
That's mental.
Yeah.
Okay, so now we're on to the only Reliant, and that's the Reliant
Scimitar.
Right, okay. Good save, I almost said something that's... What?
Scimitar.
That's not a lot spelled.
Did.
Scimitar GTE.
Right. Princess Anne had one of those. You have to say that by law.
Yeah.
Have to. You can never say Reliant Scimitar GT and never go Princess Anne had one of those. You have to. I've actually seen her very Reliant Scimitar. I actually have. No.
Privately owned though?
Yeah.
Yeah, okay.
Now, you might go, why are you owning Reliant? They're the makers of that three-wheeled crap. Yes, they did make the Reliant Robin, but
that's just a comical car.
Other than that, which they did, I think, for a laugh.
Yeah,
they genuinely made
a comical car.
They made a rear-wheel drive sports coupe with a Ford Essex V6 at the front, one of the best engines ever built by Ford, manual gearbox, in a beautiful coupe body, known as the Scimitar.
Yeah.
Basically, Capri V6 at the front, 3 litre, available in the GTE, 138 horsepower, top speed of 125, 0-60 in 9 seconds flat. This was good in the 80s, in the 90s, well in the 80s this one, and late 70s. Available with I think it was about 4-speed or 5-speed manual. Absolutely beautiful car. You'll look at it and go, genuinely, if you see a Scimitar, you will never believe that the people who made that also built the Robin. Yeah. You'd never think it's from the same manufacturer. It's crazy. But genuinely, it's a fabulous car, and obviously Princess Anne had one as well. So she was a proper car enthusiast as well. She genuinely was. She was funny.
Sure. Right. Okay. Now we're on to the Rolls-Royce Ghost Black badge. Yeah. Ghost.
Right.
Rolls. Ghost.
I'm not a big fan of Rolls because I like Rolls. I do. Yeah. I like Rolls as a brand, and I like the cars. But I just wouldn't know one because they're overpriced and they're not first. Yeah. However, the Ghost, I think, right, because everyone's like, oh, you wouldn't own a Ghost because it's like the baby Phantom, and like the Phantom will pull up alongside you at satellites and you'll feel a bit embarrassed. But I don't think you would, because firstly, the Ghost is better looking, and the black badge, specifically, a hell of a lot faster, because they tune the 6.6 litre twin turbocharged V12 to 603 bhp. But, unlike the cars that it shared its engine with, also known as the BMW M760 Li, it's rear-wheel drive. So if you actually do come to a corner, you can give it a bit of opposite lock, and the back end will slide. They're not very good track cars. However, genuinely, the Ghost is a properly fast car. It's a lot quicker than the figures state it is as well. So it says that with 603 horsepower, it can do 0-60 in 4.6 seconds. It'll be low 4s. It won't be under 4, but it'll be low 4s. It's not 4.6. The way that the thing with the Rolls is, especially the Ghost, is one of those cars that you will look at and go, that's actually not that fast. But even though it can't accelerate like a god, like a Bentley, and keep going to 207, they can't. It's just how it wafts along dead quietly, and how it builds its acceleration using the V12 is really, it's a surprising car rather than the first one. And that's why I bought, as well as the power and the surprise of the car's power. I like the way they look in the black badge configuration, all black. But I don't like black cars, I don't like black wheels. But Rolls pull it off with all the chrome accents and stuff, and it tones down what is ordinarily quite a rank car to look at when they're all black. They're not cool black cars normally. But yeah, it's cool.
Fair.
I like them.
Okay, right, and then we've got the Rolls-Royce Phantom Coupe.
Yeah, the old gen Phantom. Not the new gen Phantom. I like the new Phantom, but I wouldn't own one, as this list states. The Phantom Coupe was a bit cooler because it had 2 doors. It's basically the old version of the Wraith, which is a car I also like, but then the Wraith is just like something odd about the way they look. So this has got a bigger 6 3/4 litre twin turbo V12, but only produces 453 horsepower, which isn't a lot. So it's 65.6 seconds, which isn't brilliant, but they're not built for straight line speed, are they? But the thing is with the Phantom Coupe is, it gives you everything the saloon does in a better looking body.
Yeah.
So it's the same car, just with a slopey back end and 2 doors that open like that. Super side doors, which are really cool. So yeah, that's why I have that.
Fair. Alright, cool.
I have a blue one with a white interior, good dark navy with the white, and then the chrome, sort of silver wheels. Really nice.
Fair. Right, okay. Then we've got the Rover SD1 350 Vitesse. I don't know.
Vitesse.
3500,
which is the 3.5 litre V8. So the Rover SD1 saloon car. Probably one of the very few good cars that British Leyland ended up churning out, because Leyland was quite terrible. They built the Mini as well, the original Mini, but eventually. But yeah, no, one of the very few good cars. It was quick, had a big V8, really good looking car. The person who designed it said they were influenced by the styling of the Ferrari Daytona. It looks more like a Ferrari Daytona than flipping the Mini Cooper. It genuinely doesn't look anything like. If the only way it could look like a Daytona is if you were stood about half a mile away and you was heavily drunk.
Yes. Yeah.
Probably on Stella.
Yes.
Or Foster's.
Yes.
They're the only 2 beers I think would make it look like a Daytona.
Yes.
Other than that, genuinely that's it. It doesn't look anything like a Daytona, but it's a very good car nonetheless, and I love them. The Vitesse is in Horizon 4. Oh, right, okay. With the wing on the back. Really good car there. Did quite a lot of stuff as well, like to impact the. It had a lot of really cool features on it. I think it had like cruise control on it, and like the cars didn't have it these days. Had electronic door mirrors.
Oh, right.
But then, because they knew it would break, because it's British Leyland, they also supplied manual one.
Right, okay.
You know,
fair.
Sunroof.
Oh, right, okay.
And doors that fall off, according to when Clarkson bought his SD1 on the Leyland Challenge, 2 different doors fell off out of the 4. But no, usually they were well welded, and they were so quick and so agile and nimble. He says they were terrible. The police used them, which is why the police couldn't keep up with the Yobbos and the Sierra Cosworths, because they used SD1s, which were not very good round corners or braking. They were quick in a straight line, but no, I wouldn't recommend taking out a track.
Right, fair. Right, okay. Now coming up to the end of our with Rough and the Rough CTR from 2021.
Yes, we could basically do these together because they're the same car. They're both painted yellow, and they're both. Well, the 2021 is the homage of the 1987 Yellowbird, which is the nickname. Yeah. Now, in 2021, it was about 2018 actually, they sort of revealed this. But this is the Roof CTR, the new 2021, is basically, well, it's the fastest road-going Porsche you can buy currently. I know it isn't a Porsche because of the brand, but it is a Porsche. Okay. Like, it's just a tuned one.
No.
Except it's better looking than every other Porsche on sale because it's designed to look like the old 930s and 964 cars that they used to make before the 993. When Porsches went slightly ugly after the 996, which is the one that your build's got with the five headlamps. I think the 997 is when they started going a little bit ugly. The 991 was nice, but the 992 is not. So these are beautiful, and you know the 911 Turbo. It's got four-wheel drive, 641 horsepower, but it's got four-wheel drive. And it's an automatic gearbox because people can't handle 641 horsepower because they're weak. This is not for the weak. This has a twin turbocharged flat six of smaller capacity than the 911 Turbo S is, the new one, the 992. But it's got 700 brake horsepower, which is sent through the rear wheels via a 7-speed manual with dogleg, I think.
Wow.
It's a manual rear-wheel drive, 700 horsepower Porsche, which weighs about 600 kilograms less than the 992, or about half a ton less. It weighs 1,200 kilos approx. So it's got a power to weight ratio that's off the limit. Hence why, yes, it does take 3.5 seconds to get to 60 on a good day, because it doesn't have all the electronic aids and it doesn't have the four-wheel drive. However, the 911 Turbo S and even the Porsche 918, you know, the one that's really expensive, that does 214 miles an hour. Stops there. The new 911 Turbo S stops at 205. This, 235 miles an hour. Meaning it is one of the fastest cars you can currently buy.
Wow.
Because there are very few cars on sale at this second that do more than 235. You've only got a couple of Koenigseggs and a couple of Bugattis with confirmed top speeds that can do over 235. There's not many cars. This is one of the fastest road legal cars on sale. And one of the coolest because it's got a manual and it's rear-wheel drive. Like, how sick is that? This isn't about quarter-mile time. This is about going on track, thrashing every Porsche that's on sale because it's designed to be good on track. And then, also, when they're on the Autobahn, sat there at 205 miles an hour, like, hey, look at me, I'm overtaking all these Lambos, look at these, all these old Huracans doing 202, they're overtaking them. You just see this yellow speck, and the thing is, what's hilarious is, the 1987 would do that to a 911 Turbo S as well, because that does 211 miles an hour, which is still fast. And bear in mind, that was built in 1987. Now, in 86, Porsche set the world fastest car record at 197 with the Porsche 959. Ferrari then broke the 200 mile an hour barrier in the greatest Ferrari of all time, as we know, the Ferrari F40. And then about 6 months later, Roof came and was like, hi, we can do 211 with less power than you. 469 bhp versus the 478 of the F40. And they just obliterated it, and it can actually do, like, everyone's like, oh, it can't do 211. It genuinely can do 211 because of the aerodynamics. You know them, the headlights on the Porsches at the front, because of how it's designed, so aerodynamic, no drag at all. But the way it, the thing with the F40s, it had that big wing and it could go well on a track, and everyone was like, well, the roof must be crap on track. It's not. It's incredible how well designed it is. And the new ones like that as well. I love them both. They're all both painted yellow, hence why the CTR Yellowbird, as it's known as. But they're fabulous cars, and genuinely they would kill any modern Porsche top end wise, which is more important than outright acceleration, isn't it? Because let's be honest, on a top trumps car, who's looking at 0 to 60s? No one. When it comes to top trumps, it's top speed. And power is all that counts. And when modern cars are like, oh, we've got 600 horsepower, we can do 0 to 60 in 3 seconds, but we can only do 200 miles an hour. That just takes that and goes, throws it out the window. And the fact that it's got a manual of 7 speed, you hardly ever get 7-speed manuals.
Oh, of course.
Because of how it works. It's a dog leg, 2nd, 3rd, 4th, 5th, 6th, 7th, like that. With the rear-wheel drive, the right, left and forwards instead. Because of how it's designed, it's incredible to drive, and I would absolutely long for one. It's a pity that they haven't made many, and they never will, and there's hardly any of the original Yellowbirds either. But, I don't think that the Yellowbird was given the top speed record because it wasn't made in mass numbers. Because it's not mass produced, but it is, if it was officially, and you didn't have to have, like, mass produced number and stuff, it genuinely was the first road legal car in the world in 1987. And remained the fastest for a long time, but they didn't sell it for many years. So when the Diablo came out at 202, I don't think the roof was on sale.
Yeah.
So when that did 202, that was then the fastest car in the world in 1990, because the roof wasn't on sale anymore.
Yeah.
I don't think so. But yeah, that's a little bit of a history lesson about the roofs. That's why I genuinely would give it anything for a roof CCR. I'd have it over any modern supercar probably, except for the Ford GT, because they're sick. In fact, the 2021. I mean, it's built in 2021, and it's got all the mod cons like you'd expect from a modern car. It's just got that whiff of old school about it, which I love. Manual rear drive for starters, but then instead of a modern Porsche Flat 6, it uses a little bit of an older one. So, sick car. Recommend you go and check that one out. Read the reviews on it as well. I think it got like 10s and 9s from everyone. It's incredible.
Okay, now we're on to S and the Saab 99 Turbo.
I won't go into the in-depth history lesson of this one, but this was one of the first turbocharged sports cars ever built, along with BMW 202 Turbo and Porsche 911 Turbo. They all came out in 1973, I believe, all same year basically. 99 Turbo was not as fast as the other two, but it was still rapid. 06 was around 8 seconds. Pretty quick.
Okay.
As usual, with a ring of cars that I like. Manual, as you would expect. Automatic cars are just boring, in all honesty. Most of the time. Suits certain cars differently, doesn't it? The thing with an auto is that, you know, when you get that, it's that sense of the surprise of just the mass acceleration. Because you don't have the... When you change gear with a manual, it's a lot slower, isn't it? You get the sort of jolt forward and then in, and then it accelerates again. With an auto, it's just genuinely just outright speed, and you're just like, there's no half a second break, is there, to get over the speed? That's the thing with an auto. Is positive about them is they are quick, but obviously they don't have the engagement. That's why I like the manual better. But Saab 99 Turbo, fabulous car, very good looking. One of Saab's best cars. I think, in fact, it's probably Saab's best car. Because they were brilliant. They looked fab. They were brilliant to drive. Turbos, obviously revolutionary. Decent amount of power. I think it was about 145, which was decent in the 80s, because that was like a sports car then. Not much less than the 2002, to be honest. I had 168. And then you had around the 130 mark. So yeah, really, really good car. I definitely have one. Very good car.
Yeah, fair. Okay, right then we've got the Saab 95 2.8 Turbo, is it?
Yeah. This one's a sad one because this was the last ever Saab to be created. It was unfinished, unfortunately, because Saab went bust. They actually sold, I think there are about 2 of the estates in the UK, less than that, because they're unfinished. However, they're not going to be in danger of extinction because people are going to preserve the estates and stuff that are left. Obviously, they've all been probably put in museums now. The Saab 95 was underneath based on the Vauxhall Vectra and shares its 2.8 litre turbocharged V6 with the Insignia. Does it say Vectra or does it say Insignia? Based on the
First one you
Insignia
said Vectra.
No, it's based on the Insignia underneath.
Right, okay.
And it shares the 2.8 litre turbo engine. Also featured in the Insignia VXR. In the Saab 95, it produced 296 bhp, which is obviously quite a lot. Launching this saloon to 155 miles an hour approx, 6.6 to 60, so not slow. But obviously it looked brilliant because it was designed by Saab, it was really luxurious, just a really all-round solid car. And obviously it's not going to be as good as the 5 Series and the A6 and the E-Class, but they're boring German executives. Who cares anymore? I want the Swede, I want the French ones, I want the Italians, they're fun. They're different, aren't they? Got that whiff of character about them. Yeah, I love Saab 95. Just as a car that I just own, just to say it was the last ever Saab, because it's sad what happened to Saab, and if there was a company I'd want back, it would be Saab, probably more than most people, because it was the way they did things that made them such a good company. They didn't make all-round incredible cars all of the time, but it was the things they did to the cars that made them unique and full of character. That's what I liked about them. Anyway.
Right, okay. Right. Next we've got the Seat Leon Cupra R.
Yeah, so basically I remember before, like early in the video, we had the Cupra Leon 300, didn't we? This is the older gen Seat Leon Cupra. Before Cupra became its own brand, the Cupra R was a limited edition hot version of the Leon Cupra. 296 bhp, manual, front drive, and I think there's only 14 of them in the UK because it's a very limited production run as well. 14 or 15 of them in the UK. They're really rare. They're awesome. Awesome cars.
Yeah, cool. Okay, next we've got the Singer 911 DLS.
Yes, a resto mod this time. 911 resto mod. So looks like an old 911.
Yeah.
And no, it's not underneath. No. 4 litre Urkel flat 6 at the back.
Okay.
Which is mad.
Yeah.
Manual gearbox, as you'd expect. Rear drive. 493 horsepower in what is an old 911. Body wise. So you had 0 to 60 less than 4 seconds. Top speed of about 186. So you're verging on GT3 territory now. 911 GT3 territory. It's a lot faster than the stats say as well. But obviously it's beautiful because it looks like a classic 911 in white with the accents and all the colours and the special wheels with the deep dish at the back. It looks flipping awesome, right? You know, with the red plates at the back, that's mesh.
Alright.
So it's not a solid panel.
Yeah.
So if you haven't got a red plate there, you can see the exhaust.
Yeah.
It looks so good. It's in Horizon 4 actually, the DLS Singer 911. But yeah, genuinely, I love resto mods, and that's one I would have. Incredibly expensive, but a fabulous piece of design and engineering. I love them.
Okay, then we've got the Skoda Octavia VRS.
Yeah, I love the new one. Which is better than the Golf GTI Mark 8 in every single way. More practical, hell of a lot cheaper, doesn't have a terrible infotainment system like the Golf does, and it looks better. End of story. There you go. And they offer a manual, which they do in the Golf, however. Yeah, I love the manual one.
Okay, then we've got the Skoda Superb 2 litre TSI 280.
Yeah, this is the top of the range model with 276 bhp. 0 to 60, 5.5 seconds for a Skoda.
That is pretty
Top speed of 155, but it's electronically limited, so it would go higher than that.
Well.
Quick thing, genuinely, the Skoda were a bit ambitious calling the Superb. However, they pulled it off. It is superb. So superb saloon car, very good, very inexpensive for the size of the car. What you get, boot space, quality of the items, the infotainment system, brilliant. The interior is really nice. You get a quick car as well, 5.5 to 60 in saloon model length, about 5.6 or 5.7 for the estate with 276 horsepower. It's a solid car. Just use that for, you know, just bits of everything really. Probably really use it all of the time necessarily. But
okay, next we've got the Spyker C8 Spider.
yes.
Video. The Spyker C8 Spider.
Yes. Spyker are a sort of a known brand. I think they're Dutch. And yeah, the Spider is a really good looking near 400 horsepower sports car with a big V8. Really nice car. I'd have the convertible just because it's convertible. But I wouldn't. The thing with the Spyker is, if I ever owned it, I wouldn't really use it. I'd just sort of look at it and have it as a museum piece more than I would drive it, because it wasn't that good to drive really compared to the European example. But like the other sort of cars on the market, like the 911s and stuff. But they're really nice cars, and obviously I'd have one because not many people have heard of them. So.
Okay, then we've got the Subaru Impreza 2000 Turbo.
Yeah, just the original of the classic Subarus. So, you know, the Subaru, as it is, like the 4-door, turbocharged 4-cylinder. The 2000 Turbo is basically just the standard original version. 215 bhp, fabulous car. And they're the old body ones, so I really like the look of them as well. And not the traditional chabby ones, as we know.
Okay, and then we've got the Subaru Impreza 22B.
Yes, so basically, sort of similar look, however it's only 2-door, homologation special, 280 horsepower-ish, top speed of about 156, which isn't bad at all, considering it's early 90s. Incredibly rare, limited numbers, as all homologations are. It's incredibly expensive, you're probably looking at 6 figures now. But yeah, just an all-round incredibly good car, and as I've always said, homologation specials are probably the best cars money can buy to drive and use. Like, they just are. They're incredible.
Right, cool. Then we've got the Sunbeam Tiger.
Yes. basically the Sunbeam Alpine with a V8.
Alright.
Which is a very nice car, but it wasn't very fast.
Ah.
So you can have the same car, basically, nearly, just with a big V8 with about 140 horsepower. So it's a bit more quick.
Fair. Right, cool. Okay, then we've got the
Go on to Suzuki. I like Suzuki. Suzuki's are cute.
Yes, now we've got the Suzuki Swift Sport.
The modern one, however, pre-2021, because they've now fitted it with a 12-volt mild hybrid system, which is basically a battery that turns the engine off when you're coasting. And they've also reduced the power to 129, which we didn't have many to begin with. It had 138. But that reduction in 9 horsepower has added a full second to the 60 time. Ooh. Now, it wasn't first to begin with at 8.1, and that's 9.1. So, forget the mild hybrid one. I wouldn't get that one. I would have a yellow pre-mild hybrid Suzuki Swift Sport with the 8.1 seconds over 60 times, with 138 horsepower, fabulous 1.4 litre booster jet turbo 4-cylinder engine. It's not as good as the it's not as sort of like when you accelerate, it does have the lag, and it doesn't sort of create the sort of sense of fun immediately when you compared to the older ones. However, it's better looking, and on a twisty road, it is absolutely brilliant little car, an absolute blast. And I would definitely have one. Really cool. But obviously the pre-mild hybrid one.
Okay, cool. Then we've got the Suzuki Jimny,
the new one. And have it in the same colour as well, like that bright yellow that they do them in. Because they're just weird. And I think they're supposed to stand out. The Jimnys are really cute. Now, these are not designed to be fast. The 1.5 litre. The 1.5 litre naturally aspirated 4-cylinder gives off just 100 brake horsepower. Yeah. So you're lucky to get 90 top end. 0 to 60 in 12 and a bit, so about 12 seconds. 5-speed manual. But you do get the manual, in all fairness, which is cool. However, you show this car any form of tough terrain, and basically it will just deal with it. They don't get stuck. They're incredibly good off-road. The way they're designed underneath, Suzuki really did a good job at making it as good off-road as physically possible without it breaking the bank, so they're like 20 grand, and without them being unnecessarily fast. Brilliant little cars. Full of character. They have their flaws, but every car has. I think we've got...
and then we've got the Suzuki Cappuccino.
Yes, it is as small as its name suggests. The Suzuki Cappuccino is a K car, one of the Japanese ones. It's one of the very few that has actually been sold in the UK, on the UK market. Now, when they did that, it was about 91 it came out. These are actually slower than the Jimny, top speed wise, not 0 to 60 wise.
Well, yeah, it was a
top speed of 87, because it only has 63 brake horsepower. Thanks to a 660cc turbocharged 3-cylinder engine, which is mounted at the front. I believe these are rear-wheel drive and a manual though, so they're like a baby MX-5. 0 to 60 in around 10 seconds, which isn't too bad considering the power. But no, they're brilliant to drive. Get on these on a B road. On a motorway, it'd be a bit scary because they can only do 87, and you'd be at the top of the rev range and it'd be screaming at you, and the car would be like, "Please get me up! I'm going to be overtaken by a lorry." You'd struggle to get to 70. But on a B road in the UK, which is basically what all roads are like, realistically, other than town centres, you've only got B roads and motorways. Which motorways you can only do 70, and B roads are basically just all go for it, have a laugh. But you can't go for it and have a laugh in any sports car or supercar because they're too tight, they're too narrow. You've got trees or fences, you've got animals that could run across the road, and basically, that's why any form of manual small car with a manual gearbox is way better than any supercar in Britain, just full stop in Britain. But the Cappuccino on a B road would be an absolute blast. Probably MX-5 good as well on a B road. Just you wouldn't have that. You would probably get overtaken by some bloke in a 5 Series diesel. Who's angry that you're driving so slowly, but obviously you can only do a limited a tiny top speed. So.
Okay, next is the Talbot Sunbeam Lotus.
The Talbot Sunbeam Lotus is a Talbot Sunbeam, which is the small hatchback, but tuned by a Lotus. But these things were rally gods, brilliant off road, like on the gravel and stuff. They were brilliant rally cars. But they did the road version, tuned by Lotus, and as all Lotus tuned cars are, it's fast. as you know, with the Carlton and with the Lotus Cortina. It was fast. This, I think, had about 150 horsepower, which doesn't sound like a lot, but I think it deserved 16, about 6.5 seconds.
Yeah.
Which in, I think, 1979. This was 1979, you could deserve 16 a hatchback in 6.5 seconds. Like, the new Gold GTI does it in 6.4. Like, what the hell? This is mad. There's loads of resto mods and kits that you can do to them to make them really fast, like properly fast as well. They are awesome.
Okay, fair. Right, next is the Toyota GR Yaris GR4.
Yes. The best car that came out in 2020.
Of course.
Full stop. End of story. That's it. That's all I can say. 1.6 litre, 3-cylinder turbocharged engine. Incredible 257 horsepower on the British market. I think it was 275 on the Japanese one.
Okay.
4-wheel drive. Proper manual gearbox. And the ability to send 80% of the power to the rear wheels.
Yeah.
So you can do proper full rally style drifts. Pull a handbrake. Proper manual handbrake, so you can go yank and then just whiz it round and then put the handbrake down in half a second, and that's a proper rally. This is genuinely a rally car for the road. It's homologation special. However, they don't do a rally version of this Toyota Yaris. That's the only difference. So when they normally do a homologation special, they normally have a rally version. They don't with this. They just have the rally car prepped with tax and insurance. And some number plates. That's basically what it is. No, genuinely, you can't get a... The only car that comes close on ability for fun are the Fiesta ST and probably the new Hyundai i20N hot hatches of the similar size. But genuinely, it's 30 grand for a Toyota Yaris, but you get what you pay for with that car. It's not like you're spending 300 grand on a car you can't use. That car on a British B road is the fastest car in the world. A 300 mile an hour Bugatti Chiron could not keep up with that on a British B road. End of story. It's not possible. They are flipping fabulous. And they're rated at 5.5 seconds to 0 to 60. Top gear time, those at 4.6.
Oh, wow. Okay.
4.6 for a Toyota Yaris. This is a Toyota Yaris.
Yeah.
And it did it in less than 5 seconds. So, there you go.
So,
fabulous car.
Okay, next is the Toyota Century from 2018.
Come in. The Toyota Century is a car that's not sold in the UK. However, it's obviously it's a Japanese market. So you do get it with the steering wheel on the correct side, which is where Jack is.
Yes.
On the right.
Yes, yes.
With the manual gearbox in the middle and the pedals are CBA instead of CBA with the gearbox there. Because that's weird, because the clutch is on the wrong side of the car. You should be next to the gear lever, which is what it's for. Don't understand why people drive them with left-hand drive cars. It's weird. So, yeah, you can import them. Obviously, it's a big luxury car that's not fast. It's not exciting, but it's good looking. It's different. It's nice. Super luxurious. And the Japanese presidents and ministers drive them. But in fact, it does have a V8. 5 litre V8, naturally aspirated, hybrid system. 443 horsepower, which isn't bad. It's not. I'm not saying it's a slow car, but it's not. Yeah, it's not a set your hair on fire one. But they do a GR one. You know, GR the Gazoo Racing. They do one with the kit with like a GR kit on it, and it's really funny. It's actually hilarious, and it looks so flipping cool. But no, I just have a plain original black, not the original from like the 70s. That's so slow. I'm on about just the brand new 2018 in black, just nothing done to it. Just leave it alone, just so I can cruise around, just have a nice relaxing ride. I know it's an automatic and stuff. Obviously, it's a luxury saloon car. It's not meant to be exciting, so I understand why it's got autos on that. That's why.
So, right, okay, next is the Toyota Celica GT4.
Similar concept to the Yaris GT4. Homologation special.
Right.
This one, big turbo for up front. 239 horsepower. They could do 0 to 60 in 6 seconds flat. They were brilliant, basically. They did two. They did the older one and the newer one. I'm on about the one with the circle front lights, which isn't a very good looking car in any colour except red. But out of the manual option, because I think they did an auto as well, which I think is a bit weird. Can't remember though. Yeah, really cool car though. Basically the oldie version of the Yaris, except for it did look better with the coupe body. We're getting attacked by the door, I think.
I'll do it.
Yeah.
Okay. Right, cool. Next is the Toyota Supra A80.
that's going to have to have its doorstop, isn't it?
Just shush, child.
Right. You set the dog off now.
Go.
Right. 80 Supra is the Supra that everybody thinks of when you mention the word Supra. The one that looks like a catfish, the one that's not that good looking in any colour except from white probably, and I don't really like white cars. And the one that's incredibly overrated even though Luke says it's not, because the shift has been put towards other cars, which I understand. Like the Huracan is 10 times more overrated than the Supra now. Yeah. The thing with the Supra is I hate how it's obsessed over Paul Walker and Fast and Furious. And Paul Walker. I don't speak ill of the dead, and he's a brilliant guy, but he's probably the most overrated human being on the planet. Facts. Fast and Furious is probably the most overrated film on the planet, and it isn't that good. Fact. However, I do not care. I don't like overrated cars, and the Supra did have its spell of being incredibly overrated, but shift has now gone to other cars, and it's actually gained a classic and cult status. It's common with people who put 1400 horsepower in it and put stupid big exhaust in it, and people who put silly wings on it and make it like orange with green accents on the side, like Fast and Furious cars. I don't like that, and then those people can just go and enjoy those Supers. They will find a day when it will go bang, because it will, and they will not be able to put 1400 horsepower down. They will spin around and go into a tree, and somebody in a stock 320 horsepower Super will just drive past them as a normal human being, enjoying it as they should be. Yes. However, when they're stock with the 6-speed manual, with 320 horsepower, with the 2JZ, with the turbos, if it was white, which I would have one in white, with a stock body, they're brilliant cars.
Fair.
I can't deny that they're brilliant cars. I always like Supers off, because of Fast and Furious and Paul Walker and flipping being overrated and 8-year-old kids who have them on the bedroom walls. But they're genuinely brilliant cars, and the thing is, they're nowhere near as overrated as the R34 Skyline, so, which I don't like the look of, and I wouldn't own one. So yeah, I'd have an original A80 Supra, early one, about 93-ish, because they're really good cars. And everybody says that they're overrated, and to be honest, they're not now. Especially among the people, like, the majority of Supras now are left stock and original and classic, rather than modded. Now, it used to be the other way around. It used to be people obsessed over them. They used to say it was the first car in the world, and like no car's better than the Supra, which is a lot of cars that are better than the Supra. However, it is genuinely probably one of the all-time greats. It is a fabulous car, and to drive, they're brilliant. I just don't think they look that good, and I never will think they look that good. They do look like catfishes, but they genuinely look like fish. They're not very good-looking cars, but they're sick. End of story.
Okay, then there's the Toyota MR2 Mark 1.
I love an MR2, MR2. But the original one, the boxy one with the pop-up headlamps and the T-top, so I had a T-top instead of the classic, just standard soft-top convertible with the later ones. So yeah, I'd have a T-top original, non-turbo. I think they had about 140 horsepower. I think they had less than that, about 120 something. But they were light, so they were quick. Yeah. But I like the boxiness of them. I think they're really cool. Worth a lot of money now as well.
Good. Okay, then there's a Toyota 2000 GT.
Yes, probably one of the best looking Toyotas of all time. And incredibly expensive. But they were quick and obviously famous for being a Bond car.
Was it?
As a convertible, yes. Because I can't remember who drove it. Is it Connor who used it tall? Yeah. He's the one who's really tall. He's about 6'5".
What, as a Bond? I don't know.
As a Bond?
I don't look at that. I don't know.
I think it might. I don't know who it was anyway. I think it's Connor. I don't know. If you know, comment below. They wanted to use the 2000 GT coupe for the film, because it's such a tiny car in height. The person who drove it, or the Bond, was too tall to fit in it. So they built two off custom Toyota 2000 GT convertibles. It was a tall bloke, and the Toyota 2000 GT is a tiny car, which is why Chris Harris drove one. On the Bond special that they did on Top Gear recently. So
Okay, right, cool. Then next we have the Triumph Stag.
My uncle owns a Stag.
Ah.
V8 convertible sporty Triumph.
Nice.
The original Triumph engines were incredibly unreliable and not that good, but a lot of them have been Rover engine swapped now, so they're just shy of 200 horsepower and they're getting pretty quick, so good cars though.
Okay, right, next is the Triumph TR5.
Another classic British sports car, but it wasn't a V8. It was a straight six. So, very good car though.
Okay, next is the TVR Griffith.
Yeah, the modern one that basically doesn't exist yet. Because they still not built it 4 years after they decided they were going to.
Right.
Because it's still been in the factory. It's taken a long time to build this factory.
Yeah.
For cars, not many cars are going to build every year.
Yeah.
But when it eventually arrives, this manual, beautiful, rear-wheel drive, Coyote V8 powered, which is the Mustang engine.
Yep.
Sports car will have 480 horsepower, a top speed of 202 miles an hour.
Okay.
And 0 to 60 will be around 3.8 seconds. So this car will be fast.
Right, next is the TVR Griffith 500.
The old Griffith with the big V8 and the convertible, gorgeous little car.
Great.
The Vauxhall
yeah.
now.
This video is going to be a long one.
It is, but it is the final one. So.
Yeah, so, yeah. Okay, this is the Vauxhall Astra GTE Mark 1.
I'm pretty sure my granddad had a Mark 1 GTE.
Okay.
Oh, he had a Mark 2.
Yeah.
But what was really creepy recently is Luke sent me a photo of one that he saw. It was next to an Aventador, actually. It was hilarious. And I was actually like, the first thing I noticed on the picture was the GTE. I didn't care about the Aventador. I was like, Aventador, you can bog off. This is far cooler, like 10 times rarer and better looking than you. So it was a GTE Mark 1 in white, the colour I'd have it. Absolutely mint it was. But it was weird because it was on the anniversary of my granddad's death. And he owned one.
Yeah, that is weird.
And I found it so coincidental, but I found it so happy and I found it really nice as well. So yeah, but he used to have one. My granddad was a petrol head.
Yeah.
And my uncle's a petrol head. Yeah, as well. The one who has a Stag. My dad, to say the least, is probably not. But I'm going to take my uncle and granddad's side of the family and make it. I'm going to be a petrol head. But yeah, he used to have a GT8 and they are brilliant cars. Two-door. They were basically rivals to the XR2 and the Golf GTI, but it looked better than them basically, and it was quick. I think the Mark 1 GTE could do about 7.5 to 60, which the Golf was. Well, it was a Mark 2 Golf around that sort of date actually. It was about 8.5, and the XR2 was around 9.5. So.
Okay, next the Vauxhall Lotus Carlton.
My money, no object dream car is the Vauxhall Lotus Carlton because of what it did. Not because it's the best looking car in the world. It is not. There are far better looking cars in the Vauxhall Lotus Carlton. There are far quicker cars than the Lotus Carlton. However, it's what it did to the planet. It changed the world for the four-door saloon. You may be sat here now and you may like the 600 horsepower super saloons we've got now, like the M5 and the RS6 and the E63. Horsepower in saloons may not have ended up that way if it wasn't for the leap that the Lotus Carlton made in 1990. We only got over 300 in the mid-90s with the BMWs and Audis. They could have got there anyway. But the Lotus Carlton was closer to 400.
Yeah.
This had, so it came out at the time when the Sierra Cosworth, Sapphire Cosworth, one of my all-time dream cars as well. In fact, it's my dream daily driver. I know the Lotus Carlton's also can be daily, but it's my number one dream car, so it doesn't really work as a daily and it's too expensive. So, Sapphire Cosworth was out, which took the M3 and the 190 and threw them in the bin because it was faster than both of them. But they all had around 200 horsepower. Lotus Carlton was built to take on those. Now the M5 at the time had a 282-ish horsepower, 286, which was the M5, the E28. And that was the fastest four-door saloon, basically, that you could buy then. It did 153. In fact, the Sierra Cosy did 151. So in fact, the Cosy was far quicker than the M5 because it was smaller and lighter. The Carlton came out in 1990, 2 years after the M5. with 100 more horsepower, nearly.
Yeah.
It was about 95 horsepower more.
Yeah.
Top speed was now pushed up to 177 by law because it was faster. 0 to 60, low fives. And that wasn't the end, because this car wasn't just quick in a straight line. Take it on a track, it could obliterate 911s and Ferrari 348s and stuff for the day. It would take on the supercars and the sports cars of the time in the 90s. Not like the Diablo and stuff, we're not on about stuff like that. Because they've got 490 horsepower. But it would take on those cars and just annihilate them on track, because it was heavily modified. Suspension was done by Lotus, diff, wheels, tyres, brakes, everything. It was basically, all it was a Lotus car underneath, basically Lotus F1 team vehicle tuned underneath with the engine done by Lotus with a Vauxhall body. It's basically a supercar with a Vauxhall styling.
Yeah.
And that's why I like it, because this car is so underestimated. It's incredibly rare. There's only 43 of them left on the roads in the UK. 43, which does include Saab. Yeah. So there's 43, incredibly rare. There's actually less Audi RS2s. We did see something very similar with the Audi RS2 in 95, or 94 I think it came out, when Porsche tuned the Audi 80 estate, created the RS2. But Lotus did, the Lotus Carlton is far quicker than the RS2. It's got 86 more horsepower than the RS2. Can do 30 mile an hour more top end, even though that can do 162, so you can probably guess how fast it can go. I'll give you one thing about the Carlton, shows you how fast it was. It was so fast that the British government, bear in mind this is a British car, now the British government thought that it was unacceptable for a four-door car to be that fast, and it is the only car in British history that has ever been attempted to be banned. There are no cars that have ever been banned by the British government. The only one that they ever attempted to ban was the Lotus Carlton. Didn't fall through. It never got banned. However, has caused the biggest political stir of any car since 1964-ish, when the Shelby Daytona did 191 on the M1, which is when they introduced the speed limit.
Yeah.
Other than that, no car had ever produced any bigger political division or anything. It impacted the government that much. Because it could do about 190 plus. It could do over 190 miles an hour. There's no proven top speed for the Carlton, except for Manowar did say that he had hit over 190 if you engage the secret de-restrictor on the gear. Secret this. Now Vauxhall, and they weren't the richest company, and neither was Lotus. Lotus have never been that wealthy, and they couldn't really afford to build all of the cars with speed limiters, like electronic ones, like all the 155 ones that their BMW had and stuff in the mid-90s. So they had to think of a little bit of a hack. Now, the car top speed is registered at 177 because that is the top speed of the car at a red line in 5th gear. Now, it's got a 6-speed manual gearbox. The 6th gear isn't a cruising gear at all. It's just a really long gear that increases the speed. However, you can only increase the speed from 177 if you redline it into 6. If you leave it right until the very last minute and it starts like edging like that, and then engage 6 dead quick, limiter's gone. Yeah. If you engage 6th for the red line, you're stuck at 177. How genius is that? That is genius. Because on a normal day, it's a 177 mile an hour car, which in 1990 is still unacceptably fast for a four-door saloon. The first four-door saloon to be faster than that and do over 177, I think, was the E39 with the limit taken off, probably something like that. So this car took 10 years for saloons to catch up. So yeah, the only way you could increase the top speed was to redline it, but you didn't have to fiddle with the engine and take the ECUs and all the engine management systems out to remove the limiters that you have now. It was basically just drive it on the autobahn, engage 6th at the red line, bang, there you go, you're doing 190 odd miles an hour. And to be honest, if the Lotus Carlton did 203, it would have been the fastest car in the world. Now, nobody's ever tested it, and I think that it is possible with that 6th gear because it's so long before it hits the red line again. It's entirely possible with that 6th, which isn't a cruising gear. It's just a really long final drive ratio. It's entirely possible. It could do 203. So, if you've got a Carlton out there, take it to a 2.5 mile long runway and max it for us and see what it can genuinely do, because the top speed is easily over 190. It'll be over 195. The top speed will be close to 200 anyway. So what can it genuinely do? Can it do 203? If so, it's the unofficial fastest car in the world in 1990, which was the Diablo at 202. So if it can do 203, it'd have been faster than a Diablo top end, which is incredible to think of. But genuinely, that's why it's my dream car. And I did a video about an 40-odd minute video on the Carlton, which you can see up there, why it's my dream car. But genuinely, there are faster saloon cars now. Obviously, there are times we've moved on. It's 30 years old, for Pete's sake. But in 1990, imagine just being in your Ferrari 348 at 170, which was their top speed, and this thing flew past you in 6th at like 190. You'd be like, because it's the sort of car that if it drove past you on a normal sunny day, if you're just a regular person, you're not interested in cars at all, you have no knowledge of them or anything, you wouldn't even really look at it. You just think, oh, that's a slightly pumped up Carlton. You just think it looks a bit tarted up. It's got a couple of Lotus badges on it. You wouldn't think of anything of that. But if you know about the Carlton, that is basically like seeing gold. Because it is one of the all-time greatest cars. I've still not ever done that video, and I am definitely going to do it eventually. But I can tell you, me and Luke voted it number 2 slot as one of the all-time greats because of what it did. Because it's an absolute legend. And just because it's flipping stupid. And that was why I liked Vauxhall back then. They did stuff like that, and Lotus did stuff like that. They don't do that anymore, and it's so sad to see car. And the thing is, this is before the days of soft limiters and, all the emissions crap that you have on cars now. And let's not talk about the engine. 3.6 litre, twin turbocharged straight 6. It sounds incredible because it revs so high as well, but it's so loud because the exhaust system was done by Lotus and tuned exhaust system and stuff. My God, the car is incredible. Painted in such a dark green with the sort of wheels and stuff. The other reason for the political scandal around it was because it was so fast and actually quite easy to firstly steal and secondly buy, because it wasn't like stupidly expensive. The police couldn't keep up. Because with the Rover SD1, they were like, oh, them Sapphires are quick, let's get some of those. But then by the time they got the Sapphires, the Carlton came out, so they had the exact same problem all over again. And even though the Sapphire was like 3 seconds quicker than the Rover SD1 to 60 and was like a 20 mile an hour faster top end, they now couldn't keep up with people anyway. So, but yeah, brilliant piece of engineering, love it.
Okay, next the Vauxhall Monaro VXR 600.
Another case of Vauxhall going utterly crazy. Now you may know the Monaro as the Holden 2-door muscle car. The one, it's a really good looking car. Vauxhall decided they would have a 601 brake horsepower version. Twins, I think it was twin supercharged or something stupid. 601 bhp. Top speed, 180. I think it was limited. So imagine how fast this is. Did 63.9 seconds. Rear-wheel drive manual. Sick. Big V8. So yeah, Vauxhall going crazy yet again, as we all know. Vauxhall going crazy takes you back. You don't expect it. But that's why I like Vauxhall, when they do go crazy. Should be allowed.
Okay, next is the Vauxhall VXR 8 Maloo.
VXR8, another Holden that was badged as a Vauxhall in the UK, which they all were. Yeah, the Ute, or the pickup truck, with the bed at the back, big V8 manual, 400 odd horsepower. But the one I would have is the later ones with about, I don't know whether I'd have the early one with 425 or the later ones with about 537. I don't know which one, because I'd have to sort of decide that if I ever bought one. But, which I probably wouldn't, because they're quite expensive on the second-hand market now. But yeah, they're brilliant and incredibly rare as well. the VXR8 cars. So yeah, it's Vauxhall's craziness again. Because they sold that along. The thing you see Corsas, Astras, the Insignia, the Mocha, stuff like that, and then you just see that big 6.2 litre V8 car, and you'd be like, what the hell is that doing in Vauxhall's range? Like, what the hell? But that's why I love Vauxhall when they did sell stuff like that. A lot of people would say that this is the modern version of the Carlton. It's not. Nowhere near. But it is a fast hot saloon from Vauxhall, not Holden. It's not the VXR8 that's been imported from Australia with Holden badges swapped for Vauxhall ones. This is genuinely Vauxhall's hot saloon. 2.8 litre twin turbo, turbocharged V6, single turbo. 4-wheel drive, manual gearbox in the middle. Top speed could be raised to 170 miles an hour, which is fast for flipping Insignia. 321 bhp. Rapid just isn't a modern version of the Carlton because it's far inferior in performance terms and handling and braking terms. But it is a little bit of a step up from Vauxhall sort of modern cars now. Yeah. It was a step up to like, oh, they can make a hot saloon. Yeah. So even in the modern day. So yeah. But a very cool car nonetheless.
Okay, next we'll move on to
Volkswagen.
Volkswagen. Yeah, and I've got the Volkswagen Up GTI.
It's an Up with GTI badges. Basically, it's a modern equivalent of the Mark 1 Golf GTI because they've managed to match horsepower 0 to 60 and size basically with the original Golf GTI Mark 1.
Right, fair.
Which obviously is a legend.
And then we've got the Volkswagen Golf GTI Club Sport S, the Mark 7.
Yeah, so this is the most modern Golf I would buy. What did they do? They got a Golf R engine with 306 horsepower at the time, and they shoved it in a Golf GTI with front-wheel drive, not four-wheel drive, a manual gearbox, what I want. They took the back seats out and made a track weapon.
Fair.
But the reason I wouldn't have the Golf GTI is because the Golf R is because if I was going to get a Golf R, I'd want the fast one with the automatic, and then it's not as fun. Yep. The Golf GTI Club Sport S basically offers you the same power and the same sense of speed, but in a lighter package that's better on track and far more fun. Yeah. So that's why I have the Club Sport S.
Fair. Okay, and then we've got the Volkswagen Golf GTI, the Mark 3.
The Mark 3 is the last Golf before they started going a bit naff. And the GTI was just a really solid car all round.
And then we've got the Volkswagen Golf GTI Mark II.
You can probably guess where this is going. Yeah, it was basically a step up from the Mark 1, which is next. And they offered up to 16 valves on this one instead of 8. Ooh, getting exciting. I mean, some cars have like 50 now. So it's a very good car. Pretty quick with a 16 valve engine. But I'd have an 8er because 8 valves are cool.
Fair. The
8 valve one's cool.
Okay, and then as you just alluded to, the Volkswagen Golf GTI, the Mark 1.
One of the all-time greats, for sure. Yeah. Obviously, the classic Golf GTI. What started it all, and the car that basically killed the sports car before the MX-5 came and regained the popularity of the sports car again. What a naughty car that was, but in all fairness, it's a brilliant car.
Yeah, right, well that's fair. Okay, next is the Volkswagen Scirocco R.
Yeah, this was actually on sale at a similar time to the Mark 7 Golf R.
Okay.
But the thing I like about the Scirocco more than the Golf is front-wheel drive, the manual option, and the thing is it dipped below 300 horsepower. Now I think for a true, fun, proper hot hatch, it has to be between 200 and 300, it has to be front-wheel drive, and it has to be a manual. Now it can fulfil 2 criteria. The Honda Civic Type R is probably the greatest hot hatch on sale. It is the greatest hot hatch on sale, end of story, of that size, for the Golf sort of size. But it does exceed 300 horsepower, but it does have the other 2 categories, so it fulfills that, so fine. This fulfills all 3, whereas the Golf R doesn't fulfil, or only fulfills 1 if you option the manual gearbox. So it isn't that fun. Whereas the Scirocco, far better looking, as all Sciroccos are better looking than the Golf. It's front-wheel drive. The R1, as the Golf is brilliant anyway, but you do get that more. You do get the more fun package in a better-looking car, which is why I had the Scirocco R. And unfortunately, the Scirocco isn't on sale anymore because it didn't really sell. But it should have done. It was a brilliant car. Because it's based on the Golf underneath. So.
Then we've got the Volkswagen Scirocco Storm.
Yeah, the old one. Storm did feature the Golf Mark 1 GTI's engine, but in a better looking package with a beautiful sort of turquoisey teal colour that you could option it in. So yeah, that's why I love that with the coupe sort of body. It's nice.
Cool. Then we've got the Volkswagen Corrado VR6.
Yeah, with the fabulous VR6 engine, which a lot of people don't know about VR engines because neither did Volkswagen clearly, because they badged a lot of their VR engine stuff as V6s just to save confusion. But there is a lot of confusion between them. Everybody thinks it's a V6, however, a VR is different to a V, and a VR is what creates a W. So two V's doesn't make a W, it's two VRs that make a W engine. So VRs are slightly smaller, they don't really normally produce as much power as a V, and they are most likely mounted that way. Whereas normal regular V6s are usually mounted that way, however some can be. They are slightly different. They're usually smaller and don't produce as much power. Now this produced about 190 horsepower, was the equivalent V6 would produce over 200, so there you go, there's your clear example of it being a VR. But they sound incredible. They sound very V6-ish. They're very similar. They are different, and people need to know that they are. But it's a legend, the Corrado. Midnight. I'd have a midnight purple, the Storm one probably, with obviously the fabulous VR engine.
Then we've got the Volkswagen Beetle GSR.
Yeah, the modern. I don't really like the modern Beetles as such because they're not classic Beetles. I haven't even put a classic Beetle on there, have I?
No.
Right, that's definitely going on there after this.
Cool.
So, modern Beetle with the Golf GTI Mark 7 power plant, basically. Quickie.
Yep.
As the. Yeah, right, next. Volkswagen Beetle Classic. Yeah. You all know the story of that. Don't really need to gloss over it. It's just a classic Beetle.
Yeah. Made by a very famous fella.
Two very famous people, actually.
Yeah.
Not famous.
It's not Leonardo DiCaprio.
No.
Right, Volkswagen Passat R36.
Yes. Like the Golf Mark 5 R32, this also features a commonly mistaken V6. It's a VR6, this one, but of 3.6 litres in capacity, shoved in the front of a Passat, with four-wheel drive and 296 brake horsepower, with the looks that were a lot more menacing than the standard Passat. But a really cool car, I like those.
Okay, then we've got the Volkswagen Passat V8.
W8.
W8.
There you go, very different this.
Very, very different.
Because the traditional sporty saloon, well, it's not really sporty, but the traditional first saloon has a V8. They thought, nah, I'm not having V8s. They shoved in the W8, which is two VR4s welded together.
So it doesn't even mathematically make sense, but alright then.
Two litre VR4s joined together to make a 4 litre W8.
Fair.
That's basically what it is. Produced 275 horsepower ish. It did have an automatic gearbox, but it's not the sort of car that you would want to drive on a B road at full pelt. Really, it's not designed for that. So yeah, really cool car. Incredibly rare. You don't see them. They're unicorns now. And the W8 was such a really good engine there. Really good power plant. I do like them. But obviously, Volkswagen, about their VR engines, they also did a VR5, which they badged as a V5. Which clearly shows you that there's something not right, because you can't physically have a V5. That's not possible, because you can't have, because V's always have two parallel sets of cylinders, and 5 is an odd number, so you can't have 3 on one side, 2 on the other, which is why genuinely what it is basically it's the cylinders are mounted sort of that way, so it goes 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, like that. So it go 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 instead of 1, 1, 2, 3, 4, like 5, and that'd be really odd. So it doesn't go like that. So a W is basically one. So a W8 will be 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4, like that.
Okay.
Confusingly.
Yeah.
My friend actually did a video explaining VR engines. Right. So you can go and see that on his channel. I Love Cars. He did one on that quite a long time ago now, but it was brilliant, really good video, and it's really informative. It tells you about the VRs and stuff, how I learned a bit about VRs and Ws, so go and check it out.
Right, okay, then we've got the Volkswagen Phaeton W12.
the big luxury car that was a sales disaster. However, it was a very, very good car. It was just nobody's going to buy a Volkswagen that costs the same as the more luxury cars on sale, like the big Beamers and Audis and Mercs. Nobody's going to buy a VW, are they? But it did have a 6-litre W12 with 444 brake horsepower, which was quite a lot, and it's a big engine. And that engine did famously make its way into the Bentley Flying Spur.
Oh, okay.
But with twin turbos and all the modern Bentleys. That engine is still in production today in one way, shape or form.
Okay.
Its DNA roots back to the next car, basically, and stuff like that. So,
well, the next car is the Volkswagen Nardo W12.
So, the Volkswagen W12 is a mid-engined supercar from the late 2000s. Now, they did the Volkswagen Nardo W12 and the Volkswagen Synchro W12. The Synchro was naturally aspirated with the same engine as the Phaeton with around the same power. The Nardo knocked it up to 11 with twin turbos. 591 bhp, mid-engine Volkswagen supercar, which is incredible. And it could do 217 miles an hour in 3.5 seconds. Unfortunately, they bailed out at the last minute and didn't put it into full production. But they did genuinely make working ones that did these specs and stuff. So, and they did a convertible with the Synchro power plant with 444 horsepower or something. So, yeah.
Okay, then we had the Volvo P1800 Cyan from 2021.
Yes, so we are onto Volvo and onto a absolute gem. This is probably one of the best cars that has been released recently. Now, obviously, it's not a proper production car, so it goes to the Yaris, but this is genuinely one of the best that money can buy. If you have like 400 grand to spend on a Volvo, which not many people do. But the P1800, which is next, and so is the P1800 ES, which we'll talk about in a bit, was an old classic, beautiful sports coupe. And basically Volvo decided, well, Cyan, who are Volvo's racing company, who also run Lynk & Co with the Cyan that we previously mentioned, decided they make a resto mod.
Okay.
So they got Volvo's famous 4-cylinder power plant, 414 bhp, rear drive, dogleg gearbox. Who doesn't love a dogleg gearbox? They're annoying because you will forget and you'll go into reverse and you reverse the person who's behind you. But when you are actually driving them, they're so much better. Because all your gears are in line, except from first, which you don't use when you're on a track and stuff, because you're going too fast. So yeah, brilliant car. It could do, its 0 to 60 is around about 4 seconds flat, and its top speed's around the 170 mark for a car that's from the 70s basically. But it's like modernised with proper brakes, proper suspension. It's incredible, and it looks the part. And you can probably guess what colour it is.
Black.
No, it's cyan. It's blue.
The next car is the Volvo P1800.
Yes, the standard one. I'd have a white one to match that of what Roger Moore drove in The Saint.
Oh, yes. Yes.
Famous from that film, yeah.
It's true. Then the Volvo P1800 ES.
Yes, they did an estate version of the coupe. They did a shooting brake, which actually looks properly sick. No, the original P1800 and P1800 ES, they're not fast cars, but they're so good looking and they're so cool, beautiful cars. And the ES, I would have in like a goldy brown just because it just looks like a typical Volvo estate until you actually get up close and then you're like, that's way too curvy for a Volvo.
Yeah, fair. Right. Then there is the Volvo S60 T8 Polestar.
Modern one, brand new one. I don't know why, but there's something about the modern T8 Recharge, is what's known as. It's hybrid. Polestar engineered version of the Volvo S60 that I sort of like. Because they look really good in black. It's just something that they stand out a bit more than the like the M340i's and the Audi S4s, which are diesels anyway. Why do you own one? Stuff like that. So it's just, you know, like the Peugeot 508 PSE, the Peugeot Sport Engineered, that's a hybrid as well. And it's of similar size, almost. So I don't know what's with it. The only thing that really annoys me is it's got 405 metric horsepower.
Right.
But in Queen of England terms, that's 399 brake horsepower. So if they'd have put that up to 406 metric horsepower, we'd have had 400 bhp, which I think is a much better number. But obviously, because car companies work in metric, when they measure the PS or HP, they they work on like funny numbers, which is why like when I say an Audi RS6's got 592 bhp, I think that's an odd number, but that's 600 metric horsepower. So it's a big round number in metric terms. But yeah, the only thing that annoys me is it's 399. It could have been 400, but never mind.
Okay, then there is the Volvo C30 T5.
Ewan's mum's got a C30. Not a T5 though, I don't think. But yeah, they're really cool. Sort of, they went into the hatchback market with a sort of more sporty coupe style car rather than just a traditional hatchback. So it was out with the norm for Volvo. And the T5 deploys their magnificent 2.5 litre turbo 5-cylinder, which sounds the part as well. And Volvo didn't just detract from the noise it makes, and they genuinely just shoved that in the front and thought, right, have it front wheel drive manual sports hot hatch with a 5-cylinder, which also featured in the later Focus RS and loads of other really cool cars. So yeah, they were just like, have it. But they love their 5 cylinders.
Okay, then is the Volvo 850R.
Again, a 5-cylinder, this time the big boxy estate. Volvo's famous for the big boxy estates, but the 850R was different to the normal traditional big boxy estate, being a sports estate to rival the first saloons and estates at the time. The 850R also was also a saloon body as well, but the estate is cooler because it's an estate. Now, what I would do is avoid the automatic version because it's really slow. And it's less powerful than the manual, which I find always a bit weird. Now, I did research this. They did the loads of different versions, but the proper full-fat 850R has 250 metric horsepower, 247 bhp, and the in manual form, the top speed of 155 and 0-66.7 seconds. The automatic only has 240 metric horsepower, or 237 bhp. So you've got 10 horsepower less, which then means that you've got as slow as a 60 anyway, because it's a really terrible 4-speed automatic. 7.1 to 60, so it's nearly half a second slower, and the top speed is 146. So, if you want one, avoid the auto. But the manuals are quite rare and really expensive. But I think they're really cool. I'd have a red one, just so it stands out. But the thing is, obviously, they don't look that fast. But if your manual ones are quick, they're M3 quick, E30 quick, so they are really cool cars, and they sound incredible as well with the 5-cylinder. It was a 2.3 turbo this time.
Okay, then we have the Vuhl 05RR.
Yep, different brand and the only Vuhl. We're coming to the end of the list now, not many left. I promise it'll end soon. The Vuhl 05RR is a Mexican car with a Ford EcoBoost engine, 2.3 litre turbo in the 05RR, because slightly bigger than the standard one, with an extra 100 horsepower, 385 bhp, 0-60 drops to 2.7 seconds, and is just a brilliant car. I love the way they look. I think they're really cool, and obviously will be probably featuring in the new Horizon 5 game, which is set in Mexico, which obviously we'll be updating you on all of the time. Most likely it has been added to Horizon 4, which and it's in Motorsport 7, so for me, if it's not in
it will be.
Horizon 5, it's a bit weird, but genuinely because of the place being Mexico, they'll add a Mexican car, which will be that at some point it'll be added.
Okay, then there's Vector W8.
Not related to that bloke who wears orange pyjamas in Despicable Me. And goes on about magnitude. Not related to him. However, if it was related to him, it would probably be a much better car, because genuinely it's quite a terrible car. Didn't make very many production models of it, and it's not that good looking. But I sort of really like them. I think there's something that's a bit silly and cool about them that makes them sort of intriguing and interesting about the Vector W8. And they were claimed to do 220 mile an hour or something in like the late 80s or 90s, which was just crazy. With 625 horsepower in most potent form. So yeah, something really cool about those. The other Vector models were voted some of the worst cars on the planet at the time because they were really terrible. But no, the W8's sort of cool.
Alright, cool. Right. Right, then we've got the Weismann GT MF5.
MF is the sort of thing you say when you get in this car because of how fast it is. The Weismann, it's because it's German. W is pronounced as V. No, it's the Weismann. Because of how because of the way the valves are I don't know. Anyway, Weismann GT MF5. The GT is the hardtop, which it doesn't. In all fairness, the Weismann GT MF5 doesn't look as good as the convertible. However, I would have the hardtop of the MF5 because it's quick. Now, the early ones had the 5-litre V10 from BMW. These had the 4.4 litre twin turbo V8.
Yeah.
But power was now up to 555 bhp, so it's really 193 or something. They were crazy fast, really cool to look at. They're basically the German version of the Morgan, like cars, like the Morgan Euro 8, or the Euro Max. It's basically what it is, German version. And like the Morgan, it uses German engines because the Morgan does the Euro Max. Saw Morgan Euro GT recently, actually, very good looking cars. But then I think the next one is
the Weismann.
Who knows how it's pronounced, to be honest.
Sorry, you spelled it 2 different ways there as well.
That's because I spelt it wrong the second time.
Right.
First time's correct.
Weismann.
It's first time.
Weismann.
And it's Weismann second time.
Weismann GT MF3 Roadster.
Right.
So bloody German.
So the MF3 is is obviously slower. Because the 3, that's like DEFCON basically, numbered. Set from 1 and 2 don't exist, and 4 doesn't, I don't think. But the Roadster is obviously far better looking, and the MF3 looks better looking than the MF5 because it's not as insane, it's not as stupid and crazy, but the Roadster is nice. Sort of similar sort of BHP and sort of specs to an Euromax Morgan. Very similar car that's sort of rival towards one of those. Very nice car indeed, and I genuinely would love one. I think, I don't know what colour I'd have that. I mean, the MF5 probably have a red hardtop MF5, and then like a white or silver MF3 Roadster. They're really nice.
Right, and then finally,
the last
wrapping
car
up this
of
entire
the series.
bloody series is the Zenos E10R.
I had to basically find a car with the letter Z that I like. I don't like Zenvos. I think they're horrible cars, and they're genuinely just crap, as supercars go. So I had to search for Zenos and see if there's a Zenos I like. Now, Zenos are quite weird. They're sort of weirdly nice little cars. Sort of British. They are British, you know, weirdly, with a name like Zenos. Like Ineos. It's a British brand, but it's a weird name. But yeah, so I picked the Zenos E10R. Now the E10R is the hot and ultimate version of the E10. They've done 3 different versions. So power's up to 350, 0-16 3 seconds flat. So pretty quick, good looking. And with the E10R, they decided that they would remove the windscreen with this one, and it saved weight. But yeah, really nice car nonetheless. And I'd rather look like a tart in the Zenos than I would rather look like a tart in a Caterham, because everybody knows Caterhams and not many people know Zenoses. So they'll look at the car and go, oh, that's nice, because I've never seen one. And yes, you'd look like an absolute idiot, but at least you'd look like an idiot in a car that's actually going to get stared at because people aren't bored of seeing them.
Yeah, fair. Right, well that is this series wrapped. Obviously this last episode was quite a long one, but if you're interested, go and have a look at the other videos, the other things in the series, and soon there should also be a massive video of every car, the entire list, A to Z, which obviously this will be the end of.
Yes. What's weird though is throughout that video we'll have changed
clothing a lot.
Yeah.
Actually, I actually think somehow we'd on the first and second video we'd somehow actually wore the same
Yes,
stuff.
we had. I remember that. Yes, we did.
That was weird.
It was.
I remember editing it thinking, how the hell have we ended up putting the same stuff back on? These we recorded like a week apart, and yeah, it's strange.
Yeah. So genuinely we had, except for on 3, 4, 5.
Yeah.
They just
all wearing completely different stuff. So as you can tell, this series wasn't recorded in the same day. If you couldn't guess, because you'll see the length of this video, you'd realise that we'd be dead by the end of it. But it's
I am dead because I have to give the reason and make sure I don't go on for 1,000 years, which I did about the Carlton.
Yeah,
at least when this video is filmed, Vauxhall's going to be like that big for about 5 cars because the Carlton was a long one.
Yeah, indeed. So,
but genuinely, I think more people should do this. I'd love to see your everyone else's list. What would yours be? Is there any cars that you think I'm a bit weird for liking? Any cars that you wouldn't have that are on this list? Any cars that you think?
What cars are you surprised that aren't on here?
Yeah, so cars that you would think. Why wouldn't we want one of those?
Yeah. Anything like that. And
I'll try my best to give a reason.
Yeah. And
it might cause a bit of controversy. I do apologise if you are offended by any of the cars that aren't on the list. Like, people sit there and go, "Why the hell's the Huracan not on there?" I said that in the Lamborghini section. It went Lamborghini's this big because of how long I blabbered on about how we don't like the Huracan.
Yeah.
When I say I don't like the Huracan, I don't like the base spec one.
Yeah.
The Performance and the Evos and the STO ones are like solid cars. Yeah. They're cool. It's just the LP610-4. I'll just get that out. It's only the LP610-4 I don't like because when it was out, it was a complete disappointment. End of story. That's it. Only one I don't like. That's that anyway. Right, before we start getting arguments and people killing us because of how much we hate the Huracan, well, because of how much I don't like it. But anyway, I don't have anything against somebody who owns one. I know I come across as like I am a complete hater of the car. I mean, if I see one, I'm just like, I'd rather see an MG Maestro Turbo because there's only 10 of them on the road. But because I value rarity, character, and I don't really care about performance, I care about fun. Which is a bit different, I know. Not many people do that, and it's nice to stand out and be different. Like me and Luke both value cars very similarly. But if I see one, I'm like, I don't hate the person driving it. I don't hate people for what they like. I just think that some people have overly ambitious choices. I know I'm ambitious, having like 200 cars on the list, but most of the cars on there aren't £1 million cars. They're all like 25 grand cars, like Sierra Sapphire Cosworth, one of the all-time greats. 15 to 25 grand on average for a good one. Like MX-5, what are they? 3 grand for the best examples, almost. So that's all I'm saying, is that there's a lot of people who, no offense, nothing against you, but you like £1 million cars. I don't. So I'd like to see your list. Would you have anything that's slower on there? I know everyone has different tastes, and that's the beauty of the car industry, is that everybody has different values and different tastes when it comes to cars, and I think that's what makes us all really cool as like a group of individuals in the car, as a community. Like I'm obviously part of the railway community as well. Like, I obviously like railways and stuff. Now I don't have a specific layout with specific dates, specific era, specific company or anything, or specific type of propulsion. I just have a lot of steam because I haven't been able to afford any diesels because they're too expensive. But I genuinely don't really have anything against any locomotive, really. I have my specifics and what I would own, but my list has got like 150 locos on, which is there, which you can see there. So yeah, it's very similar, but both communities, how everybody likes things and different tastes and everything. When it's all brought together in one and you clump it together, it's really interesting. And that's why I did this video, because I wanted people to know what my specific tastes are. So I don't have to do 1,000 videos for starters, but also just for a bit of a laugh, a bit of fun, talk about some cars that I like, and that's it basically. So yeah. So
if you do your own video like this, make sure you link it in the comments. That'll be great.
Yeah, because we want to see it. Obviously, you don't have to. I don't class that as self-promotion. For me, that's something I can watch. So if you do want to link your own video, if you do it,
do it.
Obviously, of course, you are perfectly welcome to promote your video in the comments below, because I don't really have anything against that. I genuinely, you're all lovely people, and you are right to have as many subscribers and as many views on your videos as me. So because we're all just people, aren't we? So nobody's different really to anybody else. We're just all car fans. So yeah, make sure you comment that if you want. Obviously, comment any suggestions, cars that you think should have been in this list, cars that you think I shouldn't have on this list that are, or cars that you aren't on the list that you think I shouldn't, because obviously there are cars on there that I didn't put on that I would also own, like the Allegro. I shouldn't really, and the Hillman Imp I don't think's on there. Is it actually? Bear with. That's the wrong thing. Was that long ago? No, it isn't. I would own a Hillman Imp actually. I genuinely would. I'd own a Hillman Imp Coupe as well. They did a sports one, which is gorgeous. But yeah, there's obviously some absentees which would be on there. So obviously, comment your thoughts, suggestions, blah blah blah, and we will see you very soon for some more content. Don't know what exactly.
Yeah.
But we have some good stuff on the way. So goodbye.
Goodbye.